Hello, my name is glitchwitch.jpg. You can lose the .jpg, you can keep it. You can call me that weird on YouTube. I don't care what you call me. Many of you after watching this video may call me bad words. I typically make videos about internet horror, adjacent things, your analog and digital horror, your creepypastas, your internet urban legends. But the horror community is in a crisis.
You guys are in a crisis. I'm on my way.
So I'm going back to my roots, baby. My first video that I made on YouTube in the ancient era of September of 2023 was on Silent Hill 4, my favorite video game of all time. Since then, I have made 2 video game related videos, one being a Silent Hill 2 makeup review, so don't think that counts. I am wearing a full face of said Vampire Cosmetics Silent Hill 2 collection. Thank you. Please clap. I know. They're great. And then a really playthrough of the now canceled Molly Moon game. Excuse me, sir. So we're batting like 1 out of 3. What I'm trying to say here is this is not my usual content, so if I piss some of you survival horror fans off, I think I'll be okay because I have my diehard analog horror fans, hopefully. So let's get into this, man. I have a lot to say. A lot going on. Silent Hill. Beloved, beloved horror franchise. And the thing about Silent Hill is it's a franchise that's been 6 feet under since 2012. Depending on who you ask. 2012 was the last time a mainline game actually came out, Silent Hill Downpour, a game I really love, and it's not just because the main character is sexy, but that's one reason. But if you ask some folks, this series actually ended in 2004 because they either didn't like Silent Hill 4 or they thought it ended with Silent Hill 4. The main first 4 games are considered the core 4 of the franchise by many. I really like Homecoming and Downpour, beside the point. And then some other people might say it ended in 2001 because you can't top Silent Hill 2, which is a bulk of what's happening right now. But despite the fact that this has been a dormant franchise for at least 12 years, minimum, it's really managed to have a vice grip on the horror community. It's just a lasting franchise that fans can't ever get enough of, and I'm one of them. Its atmospheric, liminal environments, compelling storytelling, and terrifying monsters have captivated generations of horror fans. Dating back all the way to the release of the first game in 1999. Despite making such a big splash on survival horror, this franchise has remained dormant, like I said, since 2012, unlike its sister series Resident Evil, which in less than a decade has put out 2 pretty well-received mainline games, and 3, maybe 2 depending on who you ask. I'm not a Resident Evil purist, I don't know. Very well-received remakes. Capcom, Resident Evil's parent company, seems to care a little bit more about Resident Evil and knows what they have on their hands. But Silent Hill's absent father Konami has just fully fumbled the bag with Silent Hill. You'd think if Konami was smart, they're not, trust and believe, they would literally be following the same exact path that Capcom has with Resident Evil, but for years there's just been nothing except like pachinko games. Which is really frustrating because most of these Silent Hill games are borderline fully inaccessible on modern consoles. You have to rely on older consoles or emulators, which I'll talk a little bit more about why that's just not feasible later. Then, on a fateful day in October of 2022, Konami reappeared in a way that I can only compare once again to an absent father who somehow struck it rich and decided to bring all his kids gifts. And they aren't really, like, maybe gifts that the kids want, but, like, he hasn't been here in a while, so we're all paying attention just to see what happens. And in one single stream, Konami announced not 1 game, not 2 games, but 3.5 whatever Ascension is, games, as well as a film adaptation of Silent Hill 2, which is unfortunately directed by the same guy that made Silent Hill and then up Silent Hill Revelation, but that's a whole nother video. If you want a video on that, let me know. I'm not getting into that right now. I can't get into that right now. The immediate buzz surrounded a announced remake of Silent Hill 2, which is being developed by the controversial Blooper Team. Reaction was mixed at the time of announcement, but since then, as more images and videos and just general information has come out about this remake, reaction has been overwhelmingly negative. There are a few people who are holding out hope, but I wouldn't call the general consensus good or positive the same way that I would say you've seen with the Resident Evil remakes. And the more that is revealed, the more I feel like people are really just giving up hope. James looks like shit, the gameplay is too much like Resident Evil, Blooper sucks. And listen, I'm not gonna sit here and blindly defend this game. I haven't played it. So that would be really dumb. I think blindly defending a game is just as dumb as blindly hating a game. But I do think we're putting the cart before the horse on just giving up all hope. When I see the stuff that's been released, I am cautiously optimistic. I do get some of the reservations, but it's enough that's got me excited about it. So I really just wanted to make a video to kind of explain a middle perspective of being excited for this and why I think some of the negative reactions are just not realistic negative reactions. I know I'm not the only one that thinks this, but I think having more people talk about it is better and will maybe allow some success for the game, because my biggest fear is it's actually going to be good, but people are such purists, they're going to refuse to play it, and then it's going to bomb, and then they're never going to do anything else with older Silent Hill games. Because I really think we desperately need a 1 remake, because that's a really, really hard game to access. And I think 3 and 4 could benefit from a remake the same way that 2 would, just because they're not super accessible to play. And I think, especially with 4, which again is my favorite video game of all time, it's desperate for some mechanic updates and little story tweaks and stuff that I think a remake could really actually better that game. So if we give up on 2, we're never gonna get anything else. I'm just gonna hit some of the main criticism points and discuss why I agree or disagree, and then kind of just finish off with any other thoughts I have that I may have not covered. And, you know, I'm not trying to convince you if you are completely just have washed this game from your brain, but I just want to voice my opinions the same way other people are voicing their opinions, and if you fully disagree with me, that's fine. We can still be friends, because we both like Silent Hill. So I'm gonna start off with James' redesign. I think that this is the simplest way to start out, and it's honestly the criticism that I think is the least, I don't want to say valid, but I think people are freaking out a little too much about this. So back when the game was announced on that Silent Hill transmission in October of 2022, we got a sneak peek at what James Sunderland, the protagonist and antagonist of Silent Hill 2, was going to look like, and people were not happy. This is what he looks like. Just take a good long look. It sure is another white man in survival horror. Konami confirmed that James had been aged up in the remake. He is 29 in the original game, which he's been through some shit to look like that at 29, is what I will say. In the remake, he's like mid to late 30s. In my head, I'm gonna say they aged him up 10 years. I'm gonna call the remake like 39. That just feels right to me. And I don't know, this upset some people because I think they thought that the age shift was going to change the character a ton. And to me, honestly, I think aging him up makes more sense for the character, and it makes the story even a little bit richer because he's had more life experience. You can assume that he has spent more time in a relationship and married to Mary, which makes the conclusion of the story even more sad and horrible. Beyond the aging up, I've also seen criticism that he looks overly emotive, like so anguished and sad that it almost looks cartoony, and I don't agree with this. I think everyone pulls this one image and claims that that's cartoony. That's a screenshot of like a weird face. If you go through, I dare you, go through any of my videos, you will find faces just as fucked up as that, but I wouldn't say that in general I make cartoonish faces. It's just when anyone, whether they're animated or real, are moving or crying or screaming, you're gonna pull a really weird facial expression from that series, that sequence of facial expressions. That's just how the face works. And I think this feels so contrasting to the original because Team Silent purposefully kind of under-emoted with James's face, and this was intended to kind of support the delusional nature of James, that he doesn't quite remember what's happening, he doesn't quite know what's going on, and you can't really connect with the character because of that. And, you know, I absolutely understand that, and I think that's something that's great about the original game. Honestly, my only criticism of the original James, and why I sometimes, like, it feels like an accident, the way that he's so, like, oblivious and not phased, is because of the voice acting. His original voice actor, Guy Seehee, I'm sorry, not a fan.
Why, Mayan?
You're really not Mary.
I told you, I'm Maria.
Sorry. I was confused.
Where are you going?
I'm looking for Mary. Have you seen her?
Didn't you say she died?
Oh yeah, 3 years ago. But I got a letter from her. She says she was waiting in our special place.
It does not fit, like, that voice should not be coming out of that man. So I've seen some people criticize the voice for the new game. I don't really get that whatsoever.
Could she really be here, waiting for me? Mary died of that damn disease 3 years ago.
Like, I think it fits. He sounds like a middle-aged white man, which is all James is. You don't need some crazy voice for that. I see the perspective of, like, being in favor of the emotionless demeanor because of, like, the trauma and just the delusional nature of James Sunderland. But I also think this, like, overly emotive, like, almost manic style also fits that delusion argument, just in the opposite direction. It's almost kind of makes him slimier because it's kind of like a woe is me, oh my god kind of thing. And obviously we won't, I'm really reaching here, we won't know that until we play the game. But that's the vibe I'm picking up. So I personally am in favor of this. I don't think it's an improvement upon the original. I think it's just a change. And changes happen in remakes, and that's okay. It's a remake. We're not taking the original away from you. It's still gonna exist. And you know what? My last point on the redesign, and if this pisses off some 38-year-old straight men, good. I'll sleep better at night knowing that I pissed you off. This is my YouTube channel. I can say this. They made him sexy, okay? They made him sexy. He's a pathetic, sniveling little dilf, and that is my type for fictional characters. So I'm thrilled. You know, this is a franchise full of rendered men that I have sexualized since starting to play this game. These games, I'm putting them all up here. You can judge me. I really don't give a f***. I am honored to be able to add James, wife murderer Sunderland, to this list, giving Walter Sullivan a run for his money, perhaps. So, Blooper Team. Blooper Team is probably the biggest criticism of the remake, and I'm gonna say I kind of get this one. So, Blooper Team is a Polish dev company that is known for games like Layers of Fear, The Medium, and Blair Witch. The main worry from fans seems to stem from a concern that Blooper won't be able to handle the deeper themes of the game, and that they'll just kind of rely on simple base level atmospheric horror. I've heard a lot of people joke that their games are horror walking sims. They do have a questionable history with handling sensitive and serious topics like mental health and trauma, which is, you know, that's a real concern when you're dealing with Silent Hill 2, a game that deals with so much of that on so many different levels. And one concern I have is we haven't really seen any of Angela. And Angela is a character that I think could really be handled even better in the remake. I don't think she's handled poorly in the original, but I do think we could dive deeper on her in a remake. And because of it being Blooper and there not being as much maybe original source material for Angela, I can get being concerned with a character like that. I mean, you're dealing with serious topics in this game. You know, sexual abuse, school shooters, like matricide, a lot, cancer, and sadness, and whatever the James' dad did to him, but that's Silent Hill 4. So what I will say is I can't really corroborate any of this. I have not played these games from Blooper Team. The only Blooper Team game I have played is about a quarter of Blair Witch, and the looping forest setup of that game pissed me off so much I gave up. I couldn't do it.
What the hell? Oh my God, no way. What the hell? Oh my God, no way.
Don't know that that is really a them problem. I think that's a me problem, that like if I don't have a map, I start to lose it. Like I almost got all the way through Bloodborne and that was hard for me. But when in Blair Witch, if you haven't played it, the woods rearranges itself, which is a tenet of Blair Witch lore. I'm a huge Blair Witch fan. It's one of my favorite movies. So, you know, that's kind of alluded to in the original Blair Witch Project, confirmed heavily in the Blair Witch sequel, which I defend. I like that movie. So again, I think that Blooper Team did a good job with that lore. It's just a mechanic that I cannot handle. And that game, it did deal with PTSD, and while I can't say from the little portion that I played it was handled poorly, it was surface level at best from what I saw, and I do trust other folks who say they just ended up completely shitting the bed with it. So this is one where it is such a common criticism of Blooper well before the Silent Hill 2 remake was even announced that I am going to trust the fan consensus on that. So I do understand that. I will say, hopefully they're just gonna stick to the original story like it's the Bible, so there won't be room for them to f up. But if they are to try to expand, you know, some of the side characters like Angela, we could be in trouble. Like, that's a very valid worry and a very valid criticism that people have. I mean, hopefully the only thing they'd be experimenting with is the gameplay of like what a modern Silent Hill game would look like, which from what we've seen seems to be like a combo of like the Resident Evil remakes and Silent Hill Homecoming, which is an issue for some people. And again, this is just my hope, is that they really stick to the original plot, but we won't know until the game comes out. So I do hope people give it a shot. And, you know, if you are concerned about being, you know, triggered by any of the content in it, I would hope that people will, you know, put out content warnings and things like that, just so you can kind of be prepared. Because if you've been burned by Blooper before, I understand being concerned about that. So I would say this is probably the most valid criticism I've seen. And while I don't have that much experience with Blooper, if so many people are saying this, I'm gonna have to trust and believe them. The final thing that I'm going to talk about, the final criticism, is the combat and the gameplay, which I kind of just mentioned, but I mean, the reason that I'm even recording this right now is because Konami released a combat trailer at the PlayStation State of Play a few days ago as of me recording this. I don't know how long it'll take me to edit it. And the internet freaked out. They freaked out. So since that has dropped, I think that the initial bomb dropped and people were pissed. Like, there were some crazy, crazy takes going on. And I think it's leveled out a little bit since then. It's only been a few days, but I've seen a lot more people be like, calm down, which is good. There was a large outcry about it feeling too similar to the Resident Evil remakes because of the over-the-shoulder third person and the way that the doors kind of like slam open. And to me, this is just how they're gonna modernize a survival horror game like this. Like, did people really expect tank controls in the year of our Lord 2024? Did you want tank controls in 2024? I'm not a gameplay expert. I like to play games like Cult of the Lamb and Inscription and then dabble in like Silent Hill and Bloodborne. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, but my god, the combat mechanics and the gameplay of the original 4 Silent Hill games is my least favorite part of them. They're clunky and they're minimal, and the puzzles and the story, to me, make the games what they truly are. I think the most needing of improvement in any Silent Hill game, except for maybe Homecoming, is the actual combat mechanics. Silent Hill 4, like I said, is my favorite game of all time, but every time I pick up the controller to play it again, it's this meme, and that part of the game is just the whole game. It could be more fun, so why not let it be more fun? A criticism that I can understand about this trailer that came out is that James seems really confident with a gun, whereas, you know, the original game, people argued that the combat was bad because James is just a regular Joe and doesn't know how to use weapons. I think that's a cop-out, personally. And they're saying that he is as confident in holding a gun as our favorite survival horror twink cop Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil. And I really don't have a solid counter-argument for this. I think it's a valid critique, I guess, but I think we need to see it in the game to fully understand it. I think it's honestly just the angle that you're seeing him shoot. It just feels like Leon, because you're used to seeing another blonde guy shoot a gun at monsters, and that's Leon Kennedy. I really think that's it. I mean, personally, I think the shots of him like hitting the nurses with the pipe and stuff like that look really cool. I hate the gun anyway in Silent Hill. I do not like using the gun. I prefer to use the blunt objects in any of the games. That's just me though, because I find the gun and reloading and bullets and all that very annoying. So I don't know, this to me is like a really nitpicky thing. I don't think he looks like a special ops agent or anything. It's a video game. He's gonna shoot monsters. Like, I don't really know what else to say there. You know, in defense of this trailer, it showed some really classic puzzles and confirmed that puzzles were going to be a really big part of that, and that really warmed my heart to see, you know, some of those things, because it really felt like this is Silent Hill 2. We're gonna get to see a modern Silent Hill 2, and that's just exciting to me. The second that I saw the tortured remake Dilf James dump that juice can into the laundry chute, I knew that this was going to be a remake of the game that I loved. Because people hold Silent Hill 2 on this high pedestal, but I feel like they forget how dumb it is. Like, you have to shove a juice carton down a laundry chute to get a medallion and a newspaper that alludes to a character that ends up being the main protagonist 2 games later that's not even technically sent in Silent Hill? Okay, there's a closed, unopened can of light bulbs? It's silly, and that's okay. And I've seen a huge criticism on Blooper for there being the, scary phrase written on the wall. As if that's not, like, peak Silent Hill. I feel like that's been in every single Silent Hill game. Silent Hill as a franchise is beautiful and profound and dark, but it's also cheeky and silly and dumb sometimes, and that's why I love it so much and why I think a lot of people love it. You have It's Bread, you have James's weird little hand-on-hip idle animation. It's like you have Henry Townsend existing as a protagonist.
What the hell?
You have Jasper and the chocolate milk. There's so much weird shit in these games, and that's what makes them special. So, just to round this out, I do understand why people want to be protective of a franchise that they've held near and dear for so long. And the more time that passes between something new coming out, the more you probably feel like you need to guard this. The problem is, these games are borderline inaccessible. My husband grew up with these games and he wanted to show them to me a few years back. To do this, we had to buy a used Xbox 360, use his old copy of Silent Hill 2 for the Xbox, buy the HD collection for the Xbox 360 to play Silent Hill 3, and buy a $40 copy of 4 for original Xbox. That's a pain in the ass. That is convoluted as f***. And I know people will scream at me, why didn't you use an emulator? You should have just used an emulator. Neither of our computers can run an emulator, and I'm not gonna go buy a new computer to run a emulator. It was cheaper to buy a 360. And this new generation of kids who are up and coming into horror and video games probably don't have the resources to spend however much money I spent on getting these old systems, or to buy or use computers that can run emulators. So I think that it's only fair that we broaden this franchise that we love to a new generation so that it can continue to live on and grow. I'll be open and honest, I have only been a fan of Silent Hill since 2021, because for the decade that I was interested in it before then, I couldn't play the games. So I'm sure some of you are going to completely disregard everything I just said because I've only been playing them for 3 years, but I literally had a barrier to entry to play them until 2021. How do you think kids feel now? I want to see the fan base grow. I want more people to have an opportunity to play these games, because when I first played them in 2021, it changed my life. It made me fall in love with horror, survival horror, and video games in general. I love these games so much that we named our cats Walter and Eileen after Silent Hill 4. It's a very integral part of who I am, and it kind of breaks my heart to think that there's a world where I wasn't able to get into it because I didn't have access to the games. And I think in an ideal world, the Silent Hill 2 remake will be well received, and we can get remakes of 1 and 3 and 4, and continue to get new entries into the series, like Townfall and Forte, that are coming out. And I hope that those games are just as special as all of the other ones. And I'll include Homecoming and Downpour. Those games are just as special to me, because they still feel like Silent Hill games, and they add their own unique spin on to one of the most unique franchises in horror video games. When I saw this combat trailer, and I saw silly things like the juice, and I heard the radio go off when he got near one of the monsters, it made me emotional, because I realized that Silent Hill has a chance to come back in to conversation the way that Resident Evil has. And that just excites me so much, because I've barely been a part of this fandom, and it already feels, I can feel the pain of not having anything for so long. And I get that that has made some people defensive of it, but I think it's a beautiful opportunity for the franchise to grow and for younger people to discover the older games and just get into everything that is wonderful about Silent Hill. I think the thing that really frustrates me is, like, this fan base is so pretentious that you're getting people so caught up in the backlash of this game that hasn't come out yet that I've seen people who have never played the games criticizing it with their full chest, like this now infamous tweet that complained about the combat trailer using rock music when it's Akira Yamaoka's score for Silent Hill 2. And I get it. I think that being a hater is trendy and it makes you feel like you're part of the club. And I love being a hater. Any of my analog horror fans that are watching this video knows that I will dog on Urban Spook every chance I get. But God, can we give this thing a chance to come out before we hate it? If you play it and it comes out and you hate it, hate all you want. You're justified in your hate. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think it's going to completely live up to the original or be better than the original, and you're not wrong for having reservations at all, but I think we have to play the game to truly know what's going to happen. So let me know your thoughts below. If you're pissed at me for wanting to give this game a chance, I understand. I hope we can still be friends, because again, I think we both probably like Silent Hill if you're watching this. I'm excited for this game. I really think there are things that are promising about it. I think in general Konami just loves to fumble the bag, because the gameplay trailer that came out is actually footage from last year, and that's not Blooper's fault, that's Konami's fault. They've released a small clip showing slightly more refined animation, and, you know, I think it's just Konami. I don't know what's wrong with them. I wish I did. Thank you for watching. Regardless of what side of this argument you are on, I hope you're firmly in the middle like me, but if you're not, I understand. Thank you for watching. To any of my regular subscribers, don't worry, I'm not turning into a survival horror YouTuber, but I will continue to update y'all on this game as more information comes out, and of course once I play it. And I might eat my words and it might totally suck, and I'm prepared to do that. So, thank you for watching. I hope you have a lovely day. Goodbye.